Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. See a lot of familiar faces up there, or should I say names. It's really great to connect again. If you haven't already met me, my name is Emily, and I head up the customer support efforts here at Localist, so it's really wonderful to virtually meet you. We are so thrilled to kick off this Making the Most of Your Event Content webinar series with this first segment on filters. We will be hosting 2 more webinars in the coming weeks. The next one is going to be focusing on SEO and discoverability, while the final webinar will focus on promoting your events. Since filters are the most used navigation tool across all of our Localist platforms, we thought it would be the best starting place, especially for this series. Throughout our time today, please feel free to add any questions you have in that chat box on the right. My colleagues Claire and Eliza are on standby to review them, and then we will wait until the end to address those all at once as a Q&A. So I have been with Localist for about 4 years now, and I can safely say that filters are definitely my favorite feature to chat about. They seem really simple on the surface, but there is a ton of untapped and really strategic potential there that I think everybody can unleash. But with that said, after the webinar, I will be following up with a corresponding guide that's going to have all the nuts and bolts of today's content all in a doc for you. So please don't stress about having to take notes this entire time. Just sit back, relax, listen, and just hopefully start to brainstorm. So before we dive into the true meat of the webinar, I thought we should address, what does making the most of your event content mean at Localist? It's quite simple. It just means that you'll be creating amazing content that is complete, it is engaging, it is discoverable, and it is easily found by your users. So how do filters roll into this? Well, on the surface, they're just simply a classification tool on your platform where you can assign events to various labels. But really, they're your organization's unique way of communicating with your audience, which is why they are 100% customizable. And it gives them the ability to browse your calendar intuitively and effectively. This means that your filters must always, always, always be audience-centric. To be audience-centric, your filters must be succinct, clear, and continue to match the expectations of your users. Really, the ultimate goal here is to empower them to find the content that they are interested in as quickly and easily as possible. An ideal scenario for your users is coming to your platform and knowing exactly what is offered based on what they care about without needing a specific search term or a specific date to jump to. So in today's webinar, I'm going to be sharing some actionable steps, some advice, industry best practices, as well as best practices that we've picked up along the way. By doing so, you'll be able to bring this ideal scenario to life on your platform, really for all of your users. Okay, so step 1. I want you to start by picturing yourself in a restaurant and you're handed a really long menu. You know the kind, they're sometimes spiral bound, and you just find yourself flipping back and forth and back and forth. If you're anything like me, you will immediately find yourself overwhelmed by all of the choices. You'll probably even most likely resort to just going with a safe option instead of spending the time to peruse the menu and find something new or different. So just like you are overwhelmed by a wine list with, say, 85 different options, your users are also very easily overwhelmed by long filter lists, which means first, we are going to stop by trimming and reducing the length. So the longer a filter list, the more likely it is that your users won't be able to not just find events that they're interested in, but they will also just abandon your calendar altogether. Since the short-term memory only holds about 7 items, lists much longer than that will not be effective in guiding your users. You want to make sure that at any given time, your users can retain as many of your filters as possible. Kissmetrics, a platform that specializes in optimizing websites for customers, says that by reducing navigation links even just by 1 can have a massive positive impact. With every item you remove, another more important item will just shine brighter. So the fastest way for you to work on trimming the excess is to just simply remove what shouldn't even be a filter in the first place. To get the ball rolling, I want you to think to yourself, how many places, groups, departments, and organizations do you have listed as filters? These are not only cluttering up your list as filters, but by misusing them this way, you are selling your platform short. Localist provides landing pages for places, groups, and departments to curate all of the information into a nice directory that even offers advanced engagement tools, boosted SEO, extra context for each event. And some of these features include following a dedicated page, website and social links, description, upcoming and past events, comments, reviews, and a photo. Additionally, when you connect to a place landing page, you won't have to continually re-enter address and direction information, which really, what could be better? So if that doesn't have you hooked, then think of it this way. Your cell phone is built to hold your contact list. By doing so, you can quickly select contacts, easily see history, and maybe other notes such as addresses and birth dates. So relegating your place and groups to just filters would be like carrying around your smartphone in one pocket while also carrying around a written address book in the other. So while places are a bit more obvious, it's just as simple as if it has an address, it is a place landing page. I wouldn't be surprised if you're still a little unsure about how exactly group landing pages fit into your strategy. So luckily, these groups, they already exist. They can be anything from community organizations, student groups, departments, associations, to clubs, boards, or nonprofits. The group or department landing pages will give all of these such groups just a space to provide information about themselves and host events on the platform. So after you've converted those places, groups, and department filters to landing pages, let's tackle those filters that aren't really consistently serving your users. Now, you want to remember that filters, they're permanent. Once they're added to the platform, they're displayed in the submission forms and on the homepage and all of the subsequent calendar pages. So every filter should have the potential to be used year-round. If they're not, then they're just adding to the overall length and taking up some prime real estate. So these kinds of filters that aren't used year-round, they fall into a few categories. They could be simply temporary and one-time, like for a promotion or a special inauguration. They could be annual or seasonal series that cover related holidays and happenings, like Christmas and homecoming, or limited series like MLK Week or a visiting exhibition. If it's only serving your users for the minority of the year, then it's inhibiting their experience for the majority of the year. But don't worry, to cover these common scenarios, Localist provides keywords and tags. These tools allow you the same functionality of a filter, where they connect events and you can even subscribe to a feed or build a widget. They just don't contribute to that overall length. Looking at this example, this is from one of our higher ed customers. They have a homecoming filter, but as you can see on this metrics report, during the entire year of 2016, even though we know that they did host a homecoming, the filter wasn't used because it just got lost in the shuffle. Finally, if the filter is communicating any logistics of an event, you can just strike these from your filter list immediately. For example, things like food provided or free parking or door prizes, they can just be noted in the event description or perhaps in a custom field. So if all of that doesn't have you already sold on how a succinct filter list can influence your events, let's consider how it can influence SEO. Kissmetrics also explains that concise navigation has a heavier hand in SEO than most of us would assume. Since there are inevitably more links on your homepage than your interior pages, it has the most authority with search engines. Search engines call this authority link juice. And like a liquid, it flows from the home page to deeper pages and throughout the navigation on your website. When your navigation has too many links, less authority and trust is passed down to the interior pages. The link juice is diluted. The more concise your navigation, the more homepage authority will flow to the interior pages, making them more likely to rank. So now on to step 2. Next, we're going to be consolidating any remaining filters. Consolidation ensures that your users can rely on your filters as their first and only source of navigation, as remember, most don't have a specific event or date in mind. So I'm sure all of you have recently used a streaming service or perhaps on demand to view a movie. And in 2016, Netflix actually boasted over 1,100 TV shows and over 4,300 movies. However, even with 5,500 or so offerings, they still understand that the more filters they have just means more confusion for users, which is why they feature only 20 filtering options, which is following the industry best practice of a concise list of broader filters. So the most important piece to keep in mind during the streamlining process is to avoid granularity at all costs. Prospecta, a marketing consultancy, recommends that if 2 or more pages address the same user intent, then they should be combined to create a more comprehensive piece that is appropriate for a higher level page. Consolidation also decreases any room for submission error, where a submitter only selects one of many applicable filters. Likewise, if users only opt to check out one filter, then a chunk of your events are just going to be left in the shadows. So when approaching your filters with an eye for granularity, ask yourself, will a general user really understand or care about a distinction? For example, would somebody that is looking at this event type list really know or understand what distinguishes a lecture from a talk, a presentation, an assembly, a conference, a meeting, or a speaker? You should also weigh the benefits of having a shorter filter list with the benefits of splitting out filters. In the same vein, child filters, which are just filters that are nested underneath top-level parent filters, should also be used only when absolutely necessary. You know, by their very nature, child filters run a higher risk of being too granular and ultimately not contributing to a positive user experience. A simple way to start with scaling these back right off the bat is to just eliminate any instances where there is only one child under a parent. Whether using child filters makes sense is going to depend on the types of events your organization hosts. For example, we have the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources here. Now, if their name doesn't give it away, then their homepage navigation certainly will. They pretty much only specialize in offering outdoor events and activities. So if they were to group all of their events into a singular outdoor event filter, that just would not be adequately serving their audience and community. It does make sense for them to break them out into more specific activities. However, on the flip side, if you're a university that only hosts a handful or so outdoor specific events a year like hikes or canoeing, splitting them out so that you're calling out the specifics, again, would just be wasting space and prime real estate on your homepage. Additionally, never format filters as a question and answer, and what I mean by that is having a parent filter for open to the public with child filters for yes and no. A community member visiting your site will see the filter open to the public on an event and know that it applies to them. The same way, if they look at the same event and they only see the student filter applied, they know that the event does not apply to them. There really is no need for the yes and the no options. So just like granularity, also watch out for duplicate filters, as they can also sabotage the submission and browsing experience. But be warned that duplicates are often found in different filter groups, such as an alumni event type filter and an alumni target audience filter. So finally, to round off your consolidation and streamlining, do not use filters that only serve internal needs. Marketo, a best-in-class marketing automation suite, explains, while it's important to properly support and communicate organization information, it is equally, if not more important, to communicate with your audience based on the problems your solution personally solves for them. In this case, the solution you're providing is to enable your users to find cool events. Now, of course, you can still use Localist to house these internal events. We think it's a fantastic idea for connecting your staff members. But again, keywords and tags are meant for this type of scenario, where you need to group events, but not necessarily highlight those type of events on the homepage and contribute to the overall length of your filter list. So now that you've trimmed and focused your filters, it's organizing time. Remember that long restaurant menu from before? Now picture virtually any restaurant menu, but this time without it being divided into sections. Instead, you're only left with one big list labeled food that's sorted alphabetically. And we all know that really would not do any of us any good. So likewise, don't just leave your users with one list either. Just like you expect a menu to be divided into apps, entrees, and desserts, your users are going to be expecting your filters to be divided into smaller, more specific lists, and it's always going to be a hit with them. So on your screen, you'll see 3 of the more popular and successful ways that we have seen filters divided and organized, and they are event type, target audience, and topic. So how do these all play together? Event type is the format of the event, and it communicates what an attendee will be doing or experiencing at an event. Target audience is who should or who you would like or who can attend the event, and also communicates who an attendee can expect to mingle with. Finally, topic is just simply the theme of the event. So here's how they would kind of all work together. You might have an event that is a fundraiser. That's going to be the event type for a new arts program, which would be an arts and culture topic, and it's geared towards alumni, who would be your target audience. Or maybe you have a farmer's market with the event type of food and drink, with the topic of sustainable communities, and the audience of, say, general public or family friendly. So now, depending on the type of organization and your goals, these groups, of course, may vary. So some other successful ones we've seen are cost on CoachellaValley.com. They've recognized that the cost commitment is just as important for their users as the type of event. And then we have the city of Santa Clarita, who have added a community list, which could easily be a region or neighborhood list, as well as a seasonal list. And this ensures that any visitors from outside of town can easily find the events for their trip. And then finally, we have San Jose Public Library, who has a really diverse community, and they decided to highlight this with a language filter which shows off the events that are going to be offered in a different language besides English. So the bottom line is really that these lists just need to be streamlined, and of course their goal should always be entirely clear to your users. So that's going to bring us to the end of cleaning up your list, but there's still one more step, and that is to monitor the usage. While this will add some final polish to your list, this definitely should not be a one-and-done exercise. As time passes and your platform is further adopted, you should continue to confirm whether or not filters are actually being used. There's an old saying that goes something like, you can't manage what you don't measure. So let's see if your filters actually pass the test. The following statement should be true of all filters. First, a filter has been consistently and recently used by both admins or submitters. And a filter has been consistently and recently browsed by users. If one or both of these statements are not true, then the filter should be converted to a landing page, a tag, a keyword, or possibly just removed altogether. There really is nothing less engaging than having a dozen filters that are just constantly displaying zeros across your calendar pages. So remember, monitoring admin and submitter activity can just be done right in your Localist dashboard. Your metrics reports can be used to see how many times and how often a filter has been assigned to an event. If you look at this example from one of our customers, you can see that their cooperative extension filter has been used extensively throughout the year, and when it was all said and done, they had over 450 events in that filter. So it's definitely much used. Now, if you've added your Google Analytics code to your dashboard, you can use their data to determine if the filter is being used by your visitors and users. Remember, just because a filter is used frequently by admins or those submitting events does not guarantee that it will actually be interesting or helpful to your users. So, I know I just dropped a ton of information, but like I mentioned at the beginning, I will be wrapping this all up in a filter best practices document for you to review later. And I know we do have some questions to go over, but before we jump into those, let's end with the top takeaways for today. So really, the bottom line, always ask yourself, are your filters actually designed and geared towards improving your user's experience? Now continue to ask yourself the following 4 questions. Is your filter list too long? Are your filters too specific? Are your filters being misused? Are you in the dark about your platform's filter usage data? If you can confidently answer no to those 4 questions, then congrats. You have reached your optimal user-centric list. Now, while you're going through this exercise of asking yourself these questions, if there is anything you are unsure of, myself and my team are always here to offer our advice and our recommendation for the next best step moving forward. So, with all of that said, I think we can go ahead and jump into a few questions. So hang on one second while I pull those up. Okay, so our first question, let's see. Okay, so back to converting the group, department, and place filters to landing pages. We've got somebody wondering how that is even done and if it requires a lot of manual work on their end. Actually, it is a quite straightforward process. It's something that we are absolutely ready and willing to help with. It just requires that you build a bulk upload for the landing pages. That includes all your places or groups. You'll upload that to your platform, and once they are safely on your platform, we will help you create a bulk upload of all of the events that were assigned to the filters and populate that spreadsheet with the landing page information. So all we have to do is upload that spreadsheet again to connect those events to the new landing pages, and then once that's done, we can just remove the original filters. But rest assured, we are going to be here to walk you through each of those steps. Okay, our next question is related to permissions. For those of you that don't know, permissions in Localist can be restricted to a specific filter. What this means is if you have an event admin and you want to lock them down to only being able to edit or approve events that fall under a certain filter, you can do so. You will not lose this functionality if you switch to landing pages. Just like filters, they can be selected on the user's account, so they can be locked down to only accessing events tied to a specific landing page. You will see that in the user account it does say allowed filters, but the drop-down labeled departments or groups is going to be connected to landing pages. Okay, so this next question, we have somebody wondering what I think would be the best course of action for removing a lot of those department and group filters that might have been added at the beginning, and they're afraid that if they remove them, it might cause some internal friction. So objectively, you could address these concerns just with the data. Usually when you get really granular and only have this small office filters, they're more likely to not have a lot of events anyways. But I actually would approach it differently and just show them that they can actually get a landing page instead, which I think is not a trade-off, it's a trade-up. There's certainly no con to the landing page option. Filters are very limited in what context they can provide. So with the landing page, they're going to be able to show off all of the necessary details and link to external social media pages or their external website, whereas a filter does not have that functionality. Okay, we've got one last question. So since that just came in, so since we mentioned that we'd be ready and willing to help with the bulk upload process of converting the department in place filters to landing pages, we have somebody who's saying that in order for them to get buy-in for this, he's going to have to come absolutely prepared. And how much help can we offer there? We can offer as much help as needed. Actually, I would absolutely love to set up a one-on-one strategy call with everybody to personally go over your list. That way we can give you specific and tailored advice that is very specific to your platform and your needs. So when I do send out that best practices doc, I will be inviting you to get together with either myself or perhaps Claire and Eliza to see where we can help you improve. So you are certainly not going to be alone through this process. Okay, so those were the only questions that came in during our time. Does anybody have any other questions that you'd like me to address before we hop off? Okay. Well, with that said, thank you so much for spending some time with me this afternoon. Don't forget, the next webinar in the series is going to be on discoverability, and that is going to be held on Thursday, June 8th, again at both 10:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I really hope to see you all there again, but in the meantime, look out for that doc, and I hope you all enjoy the upcoming holiday weekend. And myself, Claire, and Eliza, we will be in touch very soon. So have a great day, everybody.